listening to Her Profit Era, the podcast for founders who want a business that actually works. A business that's profitable, predictable, and pays them well. I am Cindy Kumar, a CPA, a fractional CFO from Abbotsford, BC, Canada. I'm the person founders call when they're tired of high revenue months with no money left over. I started this podcast because too many founders were chasing sales while their margins, cash flow, and bank accounts told a completely different story. I believe profit and money in the bank is the standard, not a bonus, and that every founder deserves clarity around their numbers. Each week, you'll get real financial strategy you can actually use and honest conversations with founders and industry experts about what it really takes to build a business that lasts. Today on Our Profit Era, I'm sitting down with Kenny, Bill, and Maxwell, the founders behind FOG Vodka, a brand literally built from harvesting Newfoundland fog and turning it into a premium spirit. We're talking about building from the ground up, funding growth, and what it really takes to bring a product like this to market. So let's get into it. Hi, Kenny, Bill, and Maxwell. Thank you for joining me on Our Profit Era today.
Thanks for having us. It's great.
Could you share a little bit about yourselves and how you started FOG Vodka?
Well, absolutely we can. So essentially, FOG Vodka was kind of inspired many years ago. I was living in Fort McMurray, and I ended up becoming friends with some people that were in the beverage industry. And it was from them I actually learned that the most important ingredient typically in any spirit is the water. If you think of it, water, like in any standard 40% spirit, 40% is your alcoholic content, and the other
Right.
60% is the water. So it really is the largest, most prominent ingredient in the glass, and it really helps define and build the overall profile of what the actual end product is. So I just found that very interesting, and it was after the Fort McMurray wildfires. We got evacuated, and it was just an absolutely terrible time. Well, we ended up evacuating back to Newfoundland, and it was, when we finally arrived back in my wife's hometown, it was just that. It was a stereotypical Newfoundland day. It was super foggy. It was super rainy. It was wet and mozzy. Just Newfoundland, pretty much what you expect, stereotypical. And it was from there. Like I remembered back many years ago that I watched a documentary on desert coastal communities and high elevation communities and water scarcity, and how they took the innovative approach of actually utilizing specialized netting to capture coastal desert fog or high elevation clouds, and actually use that water and basically condense it back down and get water from it. So places where you don't have those traditional water sources, streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, all these different types of things, and taking that innovative approach. And all of a sudden everything just kind of clicked. I was like, hold on a second. You know what? We should capture Newfoundland's fog, turn it back into water, and then use that water to make vodka. My wife looked at me like I was crazy, but she's like, that's the weirdest thing I ever heard, but it's genius. So we kind of sat on it and kind of mulled around with the idea. And eventually, you know what? We got into a position where it's time to like, you know what, let's actually get serious about this and look at it. So that's where I engaged Kenny, kind of talked about it, got the business going. And eventually when we said, you know what, we're pulling the trigger on this, we got Maxwell, who's my brother-in-law as well. So you know what, like there's almost like a three-brother connection going on here. And we got Maxwell in. Maxwell's integral with, with the whole production piece, help facilitating the water collection and all that kind of jazz. So we've had a great synergy between myself, Kenny, with his marketing background and his aesthetics, and his background in all things that are creative and design in that way. And then, we just found a really cohesive push forward to really bring a new and unique product to the market.
Wow, that's so incredible. How long was like the testing period?
So the testing period, I would say we started from the time inception. We moved with lightning speed through this. It's ridiculous. Just talking with some subject matter experts and some people that we had to work with to get our product to market. Just from, the notion of getting, first of all, figuring out the fog collection process and the whole fog collection industry, because it's not big in Canada or lots of North America, simply
Right.
because, the conditions aren't there, or we find ways of getting water to low water areas quite often for communities. But, trying to source out the technology, trying to understand fog collection. So there was a ton of work on that end, but to actually get the product in, like we moved at a pretty lightning fast pace, considering all the hurdles we had to go over to actually engage and get our product to market, and get the fog collection, understand the spirits industry. But I would say, from the time when we got our nets, Kenny, what would you say? What was the time frame from the time we got nets to the time we had product on shelf first?
We actually got nets on the ground
Yeah,
in it
it
was
was probably
a month.
Maxwell. What,
I I would say I would say 6 months, 7
yeah,
months.
Wow.
about 6 months. So yeah, we moved at a fast pace, and that incorporated everything from, we needed to get the nets, we needed to set it up, we need to have a test farm set up, because when it comes to fog collection, there's a lot of factors that matter. Like a 5-degree angle can make a huge difference from where you're sitting with prevailing winds. Max, what would you say the difference could be? Like if one of our 100-liter totes on the test farm.
I could say it could difference for about 20 liters depending on the angle.
Right?
Wow.
So it can have a huge impact. So really a large part of it was, first of all, getting some smaller nets and testing out for our location where we decided to set up, and putting them on different angles to find out what was the most optimized one. And that set the pace for where we set up our larger collection nets.
Wow, that's so cool. And what was it like having, like, cash flow at the beginning? Because I know it's a lot of, like, bootstrapping at the beginning. Did you guys have, like, cash flow or, like, business funds or loans?
Our boots were the tightest boots in the land. No, and you know what it was, we did, put, our some of our own effort into this as well, and, really what it was is, before committing any amounts of money to it, it was that research part. It was the market research, it was the technology research, it was just making sure that it's a wise and sound investment, and then from there, you know what, that's where you gotta make the decisions, if, as an entrepreneur, and any good entrepreneur knows that if you're shy of risks, then it's probably not the thing that you want to be at.
That's so true. And then what was it like being on Dragon's Den? Was that something that you planned or just kinda just happened?
Kenny, you wanna take this one?
I guess
Talk
I
about
could, Well, you know, the Dragon's Den was, Billy is a very outgoing personality,
Mhm.
and courageous to a flaw, I would say. So he jumped headfirst into the application to the Dragon's Den. And I think it's fair to say it was a unilateral decision, and I was sort of forced into it. It's not something that goes with the grain of my character, but yeah, I was reluctant for certain, but it was a great decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, the whole Dragon's Den thing, and I don't know, I'll be completely honest, it was, you know, just kinda flicking through, social media and seeing that they had a post up that they were closing audition soon. So, you know what? It's just like, I was just talking about my wife, and was like, you know what? Shag it. I said it's exposure. It's what we need, because that's what the whole industry is about. It's about marketing. It's about exposure. It's getting your name out there. And what better
Right.
platform in Canada is there for taking advantage of that kind of thing? So you know what? We just did a quick elevator pitch, sent it in, and the response was very quick. And they got mad at me a little bit, because they're like, "Why would you come up with this idea and apply so late in the season?" It's like we already got almost all of our slots filled up. And it was like, well, I'm sorry, Molly. But anyways, though, she said, well, you know what? We're gonna go through it. We'll go through the interview process. So I said, if you don't make it on this year, then we want you to apply for next year. But we went through the interview process, the layers, and next thing we knew, we were down there for the first day of filming, and we ultimately were the first pitch of season 19. Well, absolutely shocked me. But yeah, when we had our crowd gathering around for the watch party, and we were the first people to walk into the door, like,
That's so cool.
yeah, no, but it was a great experience. So even though we didn't walk away with a deal, the exposure, the lessons learned, the advice we got was instrumental into our continued success and the continued push in our brand and our products.
How is, like, coming up with the numbers with the valuation? Because I know you guys were still early when you guys did pitch.
It was a really difficult number to do because we were so new, and it's trying to fairly represent all the front end work. But you got to remember, like Dragon's Den, it's more like a game show, right? In that
Right,
respect, like there are some rules to it. Like for whatever value you ask, they can't go underneath it, and they can go up and down with equity, but they can't give you less than what you asked for. And being brand new, like, we already had our listing with the LCBO, but we weren't on shelf yet up there. We just had like our first order or first two orders off of Newfoundland. So, you know what? Like, the numbers weren't there to justify what we said in that plain sense. But we also had to look at it like if we didn't walk away with a deal and we wanted to look at it for potential external investment, we wanted to make sure we had a fair evaluation after that really represented the company as a whole,
right.
especially being on a national stage, right?
What kind of changes did you implement after, and did you see, like, an impulse of, like, orders come in and, like, demand?
Oh, well, I can tell you, and Kenny, you can contest to this one a little bit as well. One thing that happened was CBC Gem actually did a rehash of our pitch, which is a bit unusual because they don't usually focus in on any individual pitch for CBC Gem. And
Right.
it went a bit viral. So in total, we got about 4 million views online on through the various platforms. And we were getting requests for FOG Vodka from as far as away as Australia, throughout Europe, Asia. Like people were into it. They really want it. And so that's our big thing, right? We're just working our business to get it up to where we can start scaling it out and getting into these other areas. Because the last thing we want to do is preemptively move into new locations and potentially have like a supply chain issue, for example. So we're making sure that we got everything buttoned up before we pull the big lever.
It's so true, yeah. Because I feel like a lot of times people start to get into the US, Australia, all these different countries, but they haven't mastered, like, Canada itself.
100%. 100%. And I just gotta say this. We just flew into Newfoundland. We got in here. Well, it was like 3 o'clock this morning, and my background is in the basement of my in-laws' house. So I apologize for all the shoes and animals, but I think they're
That's
wonderful.
okay. What was, like, the biggest early financial hurdles you've had to, like, navigate? Because I know there's always, like, an inventory, cash flow kinda issue. It's always, like, a lot of trial and error.
Well, and that's just it. It comes right back down to supply chain. It's just and I wouldn't say it was a financial hurdle. It was just that. It was getting your supply chain, figuring out where to get your materials and optimize that process. And then ultimately, you know what, like everyone knows, like it's your your scale of market. It's this, the more you buy, the lower your price gets generally, right? So when you're
Right,
buying lower quantities initially, it ends up impacting your price. So you know what? But you got to get your initial products out through the door. You need to take that commitment, and then afterwards, you try to really focus on your optimization and getting your price to get your product on the shelf down. So you want to get your manufacturing costs down. So that's really where we put a lot of focus more
wow,
recently in
that's
post Dragons Den.
yeah, it's so helpful because a lot of times people invest in marketing first.
Yes, exactly.
Is there anything you would do differently if you have to go back and, like, start over?
What do you think, Jen?
Well, I mean, if someone smarter than me once said that even in hindsight, a fool is wise. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's obvious things that you could do differently, and but you got to take the obstacles and you got to take the setbacks and you got to take all these things as lessons, and you just have to persevere through them. And I think that any good business person has to find the opportunity out of chaos, out of out of a crisis. So if you go in if you go in with that kind of a mentality, I mean, I think that's the most important thing about what I could have did or what I should have did. So
Right. And what's it like working together? Because I know Kenny, Bill, your brothers, Maxwell's your brother-in-law. Like, how do you make important decisions where you guys all like, do you guys all have to agree on everything before you make a final decision on things? Like, how does it work working with family?
I think that no, I think that you know we sort of divided the roles initially by our strengths, but it's also good relationships. is trusting each other's decision making, and there's give and take. There's going to be times where we don't agree on stuff, and but
Right.
one thing that we do have in common is that we have the target, the vision, and the common big picture that we both have. It's I think it's I come from more of a creative background. Bill has built a business before this, so these are things that we have that we lean on each other for. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, it ends up, it's just give and take, and it's like wading through the gray matter to the best of our ability. So
I think to add on that as well, there's a huge element of trust in there as well. Like we all trust each other, and three of us, we are very geographically away from each other. So I'm typically in Alberta, Kenny's typically in Ontario, and Maxwell's in Newfoundland. So you know what? Like to have a business run when our key resources are spread, thousands and thousands of kilometers away from each other, there has to be trust and there has to be confidence in the execution of what each of us does. And you know what? Like we do communicate with each other and we all have a sense of what needs to be done. But ultimately, we trust each other to execute the complete scopes of work that allows FOG to move forward.
It's so important and so key.
Absolutely.
What are the different areas that each person like focuses on?
So I would say I am primarily around, I would say, and we all bleed into each other's roles, of course, and our each other's functions. But I would say I'm overall just the overall vision, the overall push, the overall financial side, the logistics and supply chain, all that kind of stuff. Kenny, go ahead.
I would say that equally, pushing the vision side of things, creative side, the overall brand look and direction in that respect too. But again, these are things that overlap. It goes back to the comment on the big picture. We share the vision, we share the big picture, and these are the things that we contribute to it. So, and I think the more and more that we go along in the business, the more that we are understanding each other's strengths, and they're bleeding into each other. So there is a sense of osmosis between us. The gelling, there's a unification as we move forward, and I think that's a compliment to working well together.
And Maxwell,
And I'm responsible for the collection, fog collection, and production side. So I collect water from the netting and filtrate it and deliver it to be distilled.
Wow.
You can say that you're Canada's first fog farmer. That's okay.
he
Uh,
absolutely is Canada's first FOG farmer. Look how
I'll
handsome he
take
is.
that title.
How important is it to like understand your numbers? Like, did you hire like an accountant, bookkeeper right away? Or Bill, did you feel like you were confident on the number side before you even hired that aspect?
No, we definitely got some help with that, and your numbers are super important. And the one thing I can attest to that is Dragon's Den. If you don't know
You're
your
right.
numbers, you're going to have a bad time. So yeah, like I said, we have, at the end of the day, like my professional background and what I normally do, I'm a safety guy. Kenny's safety guy. Maxwell's an engineer, and you know what? We all got into this industry, and we had a lot of learning to do. So whenever we could find subject matter experts in other industries or other elements of the business that we are not, proficient on, as some other people may be, we always would engage. So it's a huge collaboration into making Fox successful and bringing it to where it is today.
That's so important. And like sustainability is really important to your brand. How do you balance staying true to that, but while still like protecting like your margins and profits?
Well, I would say that, like the sustainability part, fortunately, when what we're doing and how we're collecting our water, and of course, water or fog water actually being identified through the UN as a sustainable source of water that has like
Right.
very, very negligible impact on any surrounding environment. Um, that is a core value within our company. And how it impacts our costs, it actually, in some ways, like of course, there's a cost that is associated with, you know, there's a process to having the water be managed, and before it goes into production, before we actually put it into the distilling process, we need to make sure that the water is, treated and treated by what I say is, I guess going back to about how fog is actually formulated and what it is and how it translates its sustainability and its uniqueness into our product is that fog itself requires particulates in the air to be formed, right? So if you go to other famously foggy places, like if you went to San Francisco or if you went to London, as part of your profile there, what is in those locations? There's cities, there's industries, there's
Right.
all that. So as part of your fog profile, when your fog is forming and coming in into shore, you are going to have a certain amount of those contaminants within your fog profile. For ourselves, our fog is formed out on the Grand Banks of Newfoundland, the foggiest place in the world, where it's one of the most clean and pristine spots around. And then it blows into Outport, Newfoundland, where we collect on shore. And again, there's no amounts of industry or anything where we collect, so it's some of the most pure fog that you're going to find on the planet. And what it
Wow.
actually forms around, so where it's forming around nature, we're actually collecting around the salt crystals and minerals that are kicked up by the North Atlantic. And then prior to us putting that unique sustainable water into our bottles, the last thing we want to do is lose that uniqueness. And so
Right.
we're like utilizing a process like reverse osmosis, where it just strips the water of everything, would be pointless to the whole process. And also, too, reverse osmosis can be somewhat taxing on energy, right? So what we actually do is our process, and Maxwell, you can probably talk to it better than I can. We have multiple layers of filtration where we can remove any undissolved particulates. We then ensure that any organics are removed from the water or negated. And then that way, we'll then take it to third-party testing. We'll always have it lab tested before each batch is done to show that that the water safety is there. And
Mhm.
from there, what we end up doing, we save that unique chemistry, that unique fog chemistry. So we actually managed to keep whatever that whole journey from the North Atlantic into shore. We take that
Wow.
whole journey of what that fog picked up and made that unique water profile. And that way we managed to keep it as unique and so we managed to keep it as unique and pure as we can or as possible. And then we use that to make our product.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And has there been, like, any concerns about, like, the fog and not being able to produce enough water for the alcohol bottles?
Come to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
I've never been.
No, we did have a dry summer this year, so collection was a little down, but in the spring and the fall of the year, we get much more foggy weather here. So those are our prime times to collect.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's more of, like, a timing issue then.
Yeah, well, it all depends.
Well, weather dependent.
Yeah, like last year or this year was like an unprecedented drought in Newfoundland, which I've never heard to tell of a drought in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Uh, but like Maxwell said, typically like the spring and the fall anyway, they're your foggiest times of the year, regardless of anything. Typically, typically you will still get like fog in the
We'll
summer.
still get it in the
Yeah,
summer, yeah. It's just
but
this summer in particular was a little bit of a dry one, but we still collect it.
yep.
But
Wow. And, like, what are you guys focusing on next? Are you planning to launch more products with FOG or just stick to the FOG Vodka and, like, build the business up?
This is all yours, Kenny.
Yeah, okay, sure. No, like, so, like, the brand is FOG, right? So,
Right.
like, and to make it clear, like, we're not primarily, our primary business is water collection. So we're water collectors, and so our goal is to make products with the unique water that we collect. So there's ongoing plans to grow the brand, and that's beyond the spirits, so
Right.
we believe that we have the story, we have the quality of products to back our brand being a globally recognized brand. So, I mean, there's many things that we're considering right now. There is going to be some expansion into the spirits market as well as we build that side of the brand. But there's other products that we're considering as well too. So, like, there's big plans. There's big
That's
plans.
exciting. And where do you guys sell, like, mostly your products? Is it, like, online or, like, in liquor stores across the country?
So right now we're mostly through agency stores across
Okay.
different provinces. So Newfoundland, Ontario, where we just recently got into the private side of things out in Alberta. We just recently got into the Yukon and PEI as well. So we are growing slowly throughout Canada, which is well, actually not really slowly, still pretty quick growth. And then to move back into what Bill said earlier about supply chain and other markets and other areas of growth in different countries and things like that. The plan is to secure that supply chain and to ensure that we can meet those demands once we go in that direction.
Was there a moment where like you felt like revenue and demand for your product was going up, but cash still felt like tight and you weren't seeing the impact of the revenue growth?
That's the nature of this business. It's a matter of it's a numbers game. It's quantity. It's volume. So yeah, like it's about finding ways to be more efficient on our production side, while the growing demand have and keeping prices down on the consumer side. So that's an ongoing battle. I think anybody in the
Yeah.
commercial world like will understand that. So
And I'd say this to expand on that. It's finding the balance between production and marketing because marketing is a bottomless pit
So
of
true.
money. It's just opens up and as you keep throwing the money in there, it'll just disappear. So it's finding effective marketing because you know what, like a large part of this business is, getting people aware of the story, aware of what it is. Like that's in all honesty, when we first made the product and we called it FOG Vodka, people were just like, "Why didn't you call it vodka?" And actually, that was the original name of the company, or original name. But then I was like, "But what if we make a rum?" It's like Vodka rum or FOG Vodka rum doesn't make any sense, right? So that's
Yeah.
why we ended up calling it FOG Distillery Co. But yeah, anyways, but people are just like FOG Vodka. Why don't you kind of like Foggy Shore Vodka or Coastal Fog Vodka? I was like, because I want people to know there's two things in here. There's fog and there's vodka. I was just really trying to push it out, like, we're trying to and still, it was crazy, like, we would put out explanations on socials and videos explaining it, and people still thought we were joking. It is inconceivable that we're turning fog into vodka. So, again, it's being efficient with your marketing, finding effective ways to spend, because, like I said, I if you go down the wrong route with it, marketing can sap up your money real fast.
So true. Yeah, especially with like paid ads or like working with different agencies. Like I feel like the list can go on and where you could
Yeah.
spend it marketing wise.
Yeah, marketing is one thing you really gotta learn, and you really gotta find the most effective and, yeah, I guess, cost effective, means to achieve your goals.
So true. And what has it been like paying yourself? Like, have you all 3 of you been able to pay yourself a comfortable
I'll let you
amount?
know when we do.
what does that mean? What is next question?
No, at this point, like I said, we're growing and our focus is on growth, so everything that we make goes straight back in.
Got it. So mostly like reinvesting into the business right now.
Exactly.
Percent. Yeah.
And what has surprised you the most about this journey, like personally working together, professionally?
I guess the biggest surprise is that we're making vodka, but, yeah, with that, I guess, it's learning the industry, I guess is what it is. Again, like I said, the 3 of us, very into our own professional backgrounds, but to really step outside that comfort zone and take, what was an idea and let's turn it into something, it was learning everything. Really, it was like taking fog collection, it's something that went from a documentary I watched when I was probably in high school to saying, "Okay, now let's find cloud scientists to explain to us how fog collection works and finding out there's such a thing as a cloud scientist. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's
Yeah,
so
no,
cool. I
we're
learned
learning all kinds of things here today. And yeah, so it's going doing that and then getting engaged with them and then getting them to buy into want to, engage with us and help us. And then, procuring fog nets, like, that's not something you can get in North America. So it's finding
Right.
how am I gonna get fog nets out of South America or out of Africa or wherever else or out of Europe, wherever. So it's all that, and then, it's setting up the nets, it's trying to set up a farm, and then just going through it, the whole logistics of getting bottle design done. And actually, that's one thing we're actually really proud of recently. What happened is, we entered in competition over in England, international drinks competition. We actually won the world's best label design for our bottle.
Well, that's amazing.
I
Congrats.
know we're super stoked over that one. It's pretty good because a lot of effort went into that bottle design. And Kenny, he's the one who can, if you want to learn a little bit more about what the bottle is and all the subtle elements on it are, he's the guy to explain it.
Yeah, Kenny, I'd love to hear more about it. I feel like it's so distinct and I love like the colors you've implemented into all of it.
Sure. Let me see here. So I just happen to have a bottle right here. So what we wanted to do first and foremost was create homage to Newfoundland. but not set it so deep into Newfoundland that it wouldn't resonate globally. So the design was intentionally made globally, generic enough that any coastal community around the world could relate to it. And that was important to us. And then we have our logo, obviously, which is the 3 nautical flags that alphabetically they combined together. They have meaning, but they can also be used as an alphabet, and that's FOGS, fog spelt um,
Oh, wow.
out on the in nautical flags. And so that's our trademark. That is trademarked actually. That's and that's our identities, and that would resonate to all the different branches of business that we would eventually get to. And then on the back, obviously, you see the design like we talked about that shows through the back. Giving it a foggy appearance was very important to us as well, giving it that mood and that romance to it as well, and also that 3D effect that happens where the dull light on the back, once it's amplified by the liquid,
Wow.
shines through the bottle as well. So a lot of elements to it that we're really, really proud of. Um, and the overall design and it just creates identity, so, and I think it's, we're very proud of the bottle for sure.
That's so powerful. So much meaning.
Yeah, absolutely.
What advice would you give someone that's like an entrepreneur, has a crazy idea, doesn't have the background or like the community or like the financial expertise to like go with their idea?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people jumping in on this question, but it sort of goes back to what I said. There's going to be setbacks, there's going to be lessons, but I think that, maybe a corny quote, but it's if you can imagine it, it can happen. I think that's important to believe and believe in yourself and your ideas. Be humble. Listen to people that are trying to help you. Be wary of the people who are trying to use you. I think that there's a lot of things to be said about that, but ultimately, it is about it's about fortitude. It's if you're going to go for it, go for it. Believe in yourself, believe in your idea, and you'd be surprised how much momentum you pick up from people buying into your idea. And and I think it's a very important thing about your own internal desire to see something through. So, Bill, want to add to that?
I think you did a pretty good job. But no, I like you said, man, you just got to be courageous, right? Like I would say you got to be aware of risk and be ready to deal with risk, but you can't be
Mhm.
afraid of risk. So, like you got to be confident and you got to be dedicated to what you want to achieve because it's effort in, effort out kind of thing, right? Like
So
you're
true.
going to get results from what you put in. And if you do have a good idea, you got to really build with it. You got to treat the people who are involved with you, fairly and collaboratively, and really build that team and build that. I guess really build the people around you as well, because like I said, there's been people that reached out and helped us in many ways, and it's always showing appreciation and recognition. And you know what? And with that, you're going to fill a lot of the gaps that you can't fill on your own.
Yeah, risk is real. The fear of
Right.
risk is what you make it. You know.
That's so true.
Yeah, Maxwell, what do you think?
I think overall it's a brilliant idea, and I'm not sure what to say.
I
Putting
think
you
we're
on the
good.
So
Let's
spot.
just stop there.
I
He's
think
gonna
you
edit
guys
this. Don't
covered
worry.
it.
People are focused on the get rich quick kind of mentality. What keeps you guys going rather than thinking you want to build up FOG Vodka and then just have a quick exit?
It's about momentum. It's about building that momentum. It's about the belief in the end goal. And any good entrepreneur, I don't think there's any such thing as the end goal. I think it's what's the next
Right.
thing. It's the branches that grow from the tree as you go along. So I think that's what keeps us going. And you know, if your vision statement is I'm going to make vodka to get rich, then that's a poor statement. Getting rich is a byproduct of seeing a true vision statement through. So, I mean, you really got to believe in your product, do it for the right reasons. And I think that that transparency, that trust in the brand, that the clientele that you build and the reputation that you build for your company, getting money is the byproduct of those things. Phil?
I dare not expand on that. That was a well said statement.
That was really impactful
Excellent.
because it's so important to be passionate about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Totally
And
agree.
we are for sure.
Yeah, even just like meeting you both in Calgary, you could tell how passionate you guys were about like the bottling, like the vodka itself.
Yes, and it was
Well,
very
excellent.
fun meeting you there as well, Sydney.
Yes.
We enjoyed your company.
Thanks. Do you have any like last minute advice for anyone listening right now?
Well, I would say kind of a rehash of a lot of the stuff that we did already cover is again, if you do have something that you're really passionate about that is a viable business idea, make sure you do your research first. Make sure you're ready to commit, because it's a relationship. And if you're going to get into it, you got to be committed to it. And also the other thing is just find the right people to work with. Uh, Listen to subject matter experts. Don't walk in with a preconceived notion already saying that, oh, I know this. Like I said, we walked into two industries, fog collection and spirits, and the only reason we were successful and in it and be able to execute as fast as we did is because we found subject matter experts in fields where we have no knowledge or little knowledge, and we listened to them. And you know what? Showed appreciation, and appreciation and recognition is always so important in all this kind of stuff because that's how you get people to stay engaged with you. And ultimately, it builds those relationships to let you carry on the business and move forward and expand it. So, you know what? It's commitment. Don't be, or be risk aware, not risk averse, and it's always, again, is showing appreciation, seeking out subject matter experts and having an open ear and a open mind to listen and execute on good sound advice.
That's so helpful. Kenny, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think that sums it up pretty good, I think. Yeah. I mean, no, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good.
And how do you find those like subject matter experts, or what type of questions should you even be asking those people?
For me, sometimes it just happened, naturally just through meeting people as you move along. But a lot of it is just Google and phone call. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Like I
Mhm.
said, I know it's super easy to send an email, but it's nowhere near as effective as a phone call when someone can hear your voice or you go up and knock on a door and you can see your face. That's where you really get true interaction and you get true buy-in. People really get committed to you then.
Yeah, for sure. I would even say like meeting people in person too. I feel like that
Absolutely.
connection goes a long way too.
Like we met this wonderful lady out at Calgary. And next thing you know, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, and I've been like so intrigued in like your journey.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? It certainly has been a journey and still a long way to go on the journey yet. So, you know what? As we're moving along, and anytime you want to reach out and see how we're doing, we're more than welcome to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. And what's like the vision for the next 3 to 5 years for you guys?
Well, it's definitely moving out in product expansion, both in spirits and outside spirits, is essentially what it is. So, moving into other product offerings. So, right now we're teasing with we're starting to go through a bit of research with looking at possibly putting a gin to the market fairly soon.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And have you guys had any like competitors try to copy like your fog idea?
No, and in all honesty, it'd be really hard because well, there's two major things, or I guess a few major things that really would limit potential copycats. One is being first to market, of course. Like
Right,
ha- there's other vodkas that have unique twists on them and stuff like that for water collection and all that kind of stuff. And typically, like you'll see maybe local variants, but from a national scale and beyond that, typically there's only one type of that type of vodka out there or type of product offering out there. So being first to market, it's a big one because what's a copycat is just that, right? Like you're
right.
following up and you're not the true brand. Of course, trademarks is that we have in place as well that helps protect our brand. We have that in place as well. And then the other one is file collection. Maxwell, you're the one who conducted this. It's a bit of work.
It is a bit of work, yeah. There's a lot of work maintaining and setting up for the beginning of the season and the end of the season, and just maintaining the tanks and keeping everything clean throughout
Yeah,
the
and you know
season
what?
is a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's dealing with wind, it's dealing with everything. Like every now and again, we got to do a repair or something like that potentially.
Yeah,
Right.
Actual does a crap ton of work with all this. So you know what? For someone to come out and do a copycat and put in that much effort to not get the full effect of being the first to market, then right on.
That's so true. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And what is the best way for our audience to connect with all of you guys?
Well, I'll give you Kenny's home address first. So this one's like no, I mean, like, so we have info at fogdistillery.com. We also have our website, our socials
Fog
as well
Distillery, yeah,
is a
and our
really easy one.
socials
So
as well.
Instagram, Facebook's where we currently live there.
I'll share all of your guys' contact information in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for being a guest and being open to sharing your story.
Sydney, we
It was a
appreciate you.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
thank you.
Thank you. If you're a founder who wants real strategy, not noise, and you want someone in your corner helping you build a business that feels aligned, is profitable, and actually supports your life, you can apply for CFO on Call. This is my one-on-one financial partnership for established founders, typically making between $500K to $2 million, who want clarity, who want structure and confidence with their numbers. The link is in the show notes so you can schedule a profit strategy call, or you can DM me CFO on Instagram at It's Cindy Kamar, and I'll send over all the details.